All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for a new semester of the weekly webinar series. My name is Amy Price, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator here at Sluice Parks College. Today, I'll be joined virtually by Aviation Science Department Chair, Professor Steve Magoc, and several of our certified flight instructors who will be talking about our aviation science programs and taking you on a virtual tour through some of our aviation hangar spaces. We're so excited to have you joining us today from wherever you are. To those of you who are part of our fall webinar series, welcome back. And to those of you logging in for the first time today, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to virtually visit us and learn about the aviation and engineering programs at St. Louis University. In total, Parks College has programs available in aerospace, biomedical, civil, computer, electrical, and mechanical engineering, as well as flight science and aviation management and physics. We hope that today you'll hear or see something that piques your interest. Before we start, I wanted to give you an idea of how this webinar will flow. So in just a moment, I'll introduce Professor Magoc, who will share information about the aviation science programs at Parks College. He'll then introduce our flight instructors, who will show you around some spaces of our aviation hangar. Throughout the webinar, we encourage you to submit any questions you may have to the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen if you're viewing through Zoom, or in the comment section if you're viewing through Facebook Live. And we'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible during the last few minutes of our session. Throughout this webinar, you don't need to worry about turning off your microphone or camera. You can hear and see our presenters throughout the webinar, but we cannot see or hear you. Finally, if you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, please send an email to parksevents@slu.edu and we'll help address any issues that arise. This session will be recorded and posted to our YouTube page in the next day or two, and you'll receive an email with that link when it becomes available. If you would like to view any of the webinars from the fall 2020 semester, including a trip to the hangar that we took then, you'll also find those recordings on our YouTube page. So now, with all of that information out of the way, I am very happy to introduce SLU's Aviation Science Department and Department Chair Steve Magoc. Professor Magoc, I will hand it over to you now. Oh, Mr. Magoc, you are muted.
Unmuted. Okay, hello.
There you go.
Oh, sorry about that. Hello, everybody. I'd like to thank Amy and welcome those of you that are out there to this webinar. Hope you get some good information out of this. As Amy said, I'm the chair of the Department of Aviation Science. And within our department, we have a degree called the Bachelor of Science in Aeronautics. And it's a 4-year degree program. And you take that degree program, and within it, we have 2 concentrations. One is in aviation management, and the other is in flight science. So all of both the concentrations have a core component built into them. And so it's like your professional orientation courses, your first year success courses, Jesuit tradition, where we have theology, psychology, ethics, psychology in there, philosophy also, a knowledge section where we have an aviation weather course, and then we have our math and science options. So for math, typically students will take college algebra followed by survey of calculus. Then with physics, we take an aviation physics course with a laboratory. We also have an introduction to statistics in the knowledge section. Under communication skills, you'll do public speaking, and then 3 English classes. So English Comp 1, we have a different name for it, but it's equivalent to, most people understand, English Comp 1, English Comp 2, and then an elective in English that students can take. We also have an aviation science core, and all of our students, whether you're aviation management or flight science, will take this core, and that's safety management systems, then air carrier operations. Sometimes aviation management students ask, why do I have to take that class? Well, you think about, you're going to work possibly someday at an air carrier in an airline, so it's a good thing that you have some background in that, right? So then we get into human factors, professional ethics and standards, team resource management, and aviation law. So those are basically our core courses. Then you look at the other side of the equation, where it's either going to be aviation management or flight science. So I'll look at aviation management first. So we've got several courses in there on the aviation side. aviation airport security, the air transport system, accident investigations, uh, operations and business environment of aviation. That's the corporate aviation side of our world. Uh, then we have an economics air transportation class, an international aviation class, and other courses like economics, principles of economics, uh, business and professional writing, management theory and practice, management of human resources, uh, intro and management science, so forth. You also have to have an internship as part of the aviation management program. Now, for the flight science concentration, it's got its own section of coursework that's in addition to the core stuff that we talked about. So you're looking at like concepts and aerodynamics, a couple courses in jet transport systems. Then we have a couple courses with the lab in jet flying techniques. So in this course, you're going to be flying Canadair Regional Jet CRJ 700. Then from there, you look at the professional pilot coursework. So you'll be taking courses which are going to be leading to private pilot certificate, your instrument rating, your commercial certificate with single engine rating. Then we have a multi-engine add-on rating for the commercial certificate, and then certified flight instructor certificate. And so those are kind of the basics of the two concentrations within the Bachelor of Science in Aeronautics. We also do have, if you're interested, we have a Master of Science in Aviation and a PhD in Aviation for students who want to move on through education or research, things like that within the industry. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, I'm sitting in McDonnell Douglas Hall. This is on the SLU campus. Right, so this is kind of like the main academic building for our program. Now, all the flight and associated courses happen over at St. Louis Downtown Airport over in Cahokia, Illinois. It's a short 15-minute ride from campus. So we do provide a shuttle if you need it. Right, so now I'm going to hand you off to the people over at the airport. So I'm going to hand you off to Mary Lasante and Brady Labuda, and they'll be talking about things that go on in the simulator room. Thank you. Have a good day.
Hi, I'm Mary Lasante. I'm a flight instructor over here at the airport. And right now we are in our sim room. So sims are awesome. They help us with our flight training. They help us to train on some things that we can't necessarily fully simulate in the aircraft, as well as they kind of cut down costs. So instead of doing an extra flight, we can just jump in the sim and work on our flows or our procedures or anything such as that. Right now we have Brady, who's also a flight instructor out here in the sim. Brady, where are you flying in right now?
Currently I'm flying in, this is our model of our Seminole, which is our dual engine airplane. And I'm flying in the Grand Canyon. And what Mary's done is she's failed my right engine. So what I'm doing is just flying with one engine in the dual engine airplane, trying to avoid terrain in the Grand Canyon.
So that is the nice thing about these simulators, that we can always do things like this, make it a little bit more challenging, where we have an engine out in the Grand Canyon. So this is for a multi-engine aircraft, and like all of our sims can turn into our single-engine trainer planes. So we have a few of them throughout our simulator room. For any mod or any part of the course that you are in. We also have some desktop simulators that you can use as well. So it's a great training tool, and we really like using these. But yeah, this is the Grand Canyons with a failed engine.
It's not as easy as it looks, I promise you that.
Well, I'll go ahead and turn you over to Donnie, who will then take you through to the hangar. Donnie?
Hey everybody, so you saw our sim area, and I'm going to kind of walk you guys through the other side of things. So from the sim area, we've got, this is our all new side of our hangar, few classrooms. When you meet with your flight instructors, you'll be meeting in here, one-on-one with them all the time. So that's kind of nice. And then we have our dispatch area here and a few of the management offices. Walk through here. That's Michelle. You can say hi. And there's another one of our flight instructors.
Hello.
My office in the corner. And this dispatch area is where you'll pick up any of your aircraft and, you know, just kind of get set for the day. It's where you check in every day. Out here is going to be our flight planning area. We've got a few vending machines and obviously some places to sit and do some homework or get ready for your flight block, do your weight and balance for that. I'm going to take you guys out to the hangar and we're going to go through a pre-flight on one of our on the hangar today, but this is going to be an example of one of our brand new airplanes that we got, I guess, brand new a couple years ago. It's going to be a PA-28-181 Piper Archer. This is our kind of middle trainer between the Diamond, which you see right there, and the Seminole. So you'll do commercial training will be in this. CFI would be in this if you're doing it. Pardon the lights. And then this guy right here is John Martin. He's one of our flight instructors here. He also helps us out in various other roles. And he's going to walk you guys through what he's going to do on a pre-flight on the Piper Archer.
Hey, everybody. You can come on in. All right. So I just started this thing up and got the system in here just to check. So we always start the pre-flight inside the cockpit. Just making sure that everything is set up the way we want to and the systems inside are working before we go check out the exterior. So I'll walk you through a quick pre-flight just to kind of show you what we have to check before each and every flight. So right away, we have our G1000 on. So we're making sure that the battery works, that we're able to actually get this thing started, that all of our lights work. As you probably saw coming over here, that I did turn some of them on. So we'll check that in a little bit.
And John, you said this is a G1000. What does that mean?
A G1000. So this has all of the flight control or all of our flight information. So we've got all of our flight instruments all digitally right in front of our face right here. And then we also have the standby flight instruments right here. So basically we have our airspeed, our altitude, our heading, our pitch. We've got our turn coordinator up here. So all of this, instead of your traditional 6-pack, so also known as like steam gauges, we've got a modern digital display for all of this. So,
and is there an autopilot?
We do have an autopilot.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty rad. So I can even turn that on right now. So I've got it set up. All I have to do is hit the on button. You can see the airplane wants to start flying itself, and I can turn it off. And that little chime that you just heard means that the autopilot is off.
Which is an important part of every pre-flight, right?
Yep, absolutely. So I basically got it all set up, and we'll turn all the lights on. I'm going to keep the strobes off. But yeah, we're going to go and start our walk around, make sure everything works. I'm going to drop the flaps once Donnie steps down. So from this lever inside, I can actually change the flaps. These help for landing and takeoff. I want to make sure that those are set. And we can hop right up. So when these are extended, we want to make sure that we aren't stepping on those just because they're not as structurally sound. They can't bear our full weight when they're extended. So we're going to start with our right wing here. So we're basically looking to make sure that there's no damage, no missing pieces. So underneath, I actually want to get below. And we're looking at all the connections, okay? So we're making sure that all of the nuts and cables and bolts are all still attached with each position. We have these static wicks that we want to make sure are still connected, so those dissipate the static electricity that builds up if we're flying through clouds. All right, and then moving forward, we want to make sure that we have these piano hinges still connected, and we're not missing any rivets along the entire surface of the wing. Above and below, we want to make sure it's nice and smooth, no dents. And then we're looking at the lights here, making sure that those work.
John, I don't mean to interrupt you. I've got a question on here that's asked, if a pilot comes in with their private pilot already completed, where would they enter the program?
So they would enter in the Mod 4 T program. So that would be the Mod 4 transition. So we have lots of students who have gone through that. I fly with, or I've flown with many of them who've progressed, pretty fast through the program, coming in with their private. So it allows you to kind of skip that year one mods 1 through 3, and you just catch up at the very beginning of the commercial.
So for people that don't know what mods are,
yes,
the flight courses are each divided up into 2 mods, and there are 6 flight courses.
Yep.
So essentially coming in with your private pilot certificate means you get to skip 1.5 full courses.
Yep, so that's about a semester and a half, ideally.
Got it, cool. All right, so
Great.
let's continue on.
So moving forward, checking the lights. We've got our landing light right here, nice LEDs, nice and bright for when you're flying through clouds or at night trying to come into landing. So, all right, we're coming up here. We want to look, so we've got a fuel vent down here. We want to make sure that this is nice and free of debris or anything. So that's super important. If that's clogged for any reason, that would create a vacuum in our fuel tank. So we wouldn't actually be able to get fuel all the way up to our engine. So that should be nice and clear. It's a very important part of the process here. We can actually check the fuel. Let me go grab the fuel strainer. So before each flight, we need to check the fuel to make sure that it is actually fuel and that, if there's any water or anything in there or debris, sediment. So we want to make sure that that is clear of that, and it's a nice blue color. All right, so that should be enough of that. And you can see, if we put it up to this nice white airplane, that you can see it's nice and blue. Okay, you want to give it a taste test?
No, but you might want to smell it just to be sure it smells like gas.
Yep, smells like gas.
Okay, right. Great.
Sweet. Pour that back in there.
So what John kind of glossed over, the reason they color it blue is because all different grades of fuel in aviation have different colors. So 100 with low lead is blue, 100 would be green, and then jet fuel is kind of a yellowish straw color. So that helps us differentiate, make sure the plane's got the right gas in it.
Yep, very good. All right, so the next very important part of our pre-flight is checking for oil. So right in here, I'm going to show what we're looking at.
It's very similar to your car, just normal dipstick.
We're looking between 6 and 8 quarts of oil. So we're sitting right around 7, right between the 6 and 8. Okay, and then also in here, making sure that there would be nothing else, loose parts, rags, tools, birds' nests. So, looking for anything out of the ordinary. We've got our plugs.
We probably can
get a little bit faster. Yeah. All right. So we check the fuel in 3 spots. So on each wing and then up front, this is called a gas gasolator. So this is basically the fuel right before it goes to the engine. We can push up on that slowly and surely, and then fill up more, but you get the idea. Fuel intake or air intake right there for the engine. And we're basically doing the same thing on this wing as we did the last wing, except we've got 2 additional things that we have to check. So right here, this is our stall warning tab. So this tells us if we have a stall. So the airflow goes over the wing like this, and if we were to stall, that would mean that the airflow kind of separates over the top, and it would actually lift up on this, and you can hear inside the cockpit that it's saying stall. So that's how it indicates to us that we are in a stalled configuration. Also down here, this is our pitot-static mast right here. So we have pitot heat that we would turn on and test, and you just tap that to make sure it's nice and warm. And then we've got our pitot and static information. You can see the small openings there for the air to actually get in. So that's actually feeding information to the G1000, to the glass displays
So the pitot and static reports give you what kind of information?
Are you asking me or you?
I'm asking you.
Okay, so that gives us our airspeed and altitude information. So very important stuff
Cool.
when we're going fast and high, right?
And if that iced over, you lose that information?
Yes.
Which is why it's heated.
Exactly.
Got it.
Good. Cool. Again, checking the lights here, and then checking the exact same thing on this side in the back of the wing. And now we are on to our empennage and tail section. So again, looking for all the rivets, any cracks, dents, dings, any abnormalities like that. Making sure all the screws are in place. Again, we've got more piano hinges on here, more static weights. So we've got those. And then this is our VOR antenna that allows us to get certain navigation information. So you can see this metal wire up at the top. It's kind of in a V formation. So that gives us very high frequency radio signals. So that's
radio navigation.
Yep. So that's pretty much it. We've got checking the same thing on this side. We've got our various antennas, our GPS. We have two GPS receivers on top. We've got our communications antenna. We've got our ELT. This is our emergency location transmitter. Just in case there was any accident, that would go off and tell other aircraft where we were.
All right.
So that is everything we're checking. Most things that we're checking on the Preflight. Thanks for listening. I've been John. Enjoy the rest of the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you guys. That was so thorough. That's the most thorough pre-flight walk I've been on in quite some time. I'll invite everybody to turn your cameras back on, and we'll use these last few minutes to take some questions. So again, if you're watching us through Zoom, feel free to submit questions to the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And then if you're on Facebook Live, go ahead and throw questions in the comments section. I'm going to kick it off really quick, and I would love if from Donnie's view and from Mary's view, if while we're in gallery view on the screen, if you could both show your instrument panels. And Donnie and John mentioned the steam gauges that the Archer does not have. And Mary, could you show us what those steam gauges look like, and maybe quickly go through what each of those measure and what you're looking at during your flight? Okay, we've got Donnie's. Awesome. Okay, so while Mary gets hers, Donnie, if you want to unmute, could you just really quickly kind of show us close up and maybe point out some of the, the most prominent ones?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you heard John kind of walk you through it. We didn't give you too good of a view. On the left side of the panel here, you'll see that that's all of our engine information. Okay, so I'll get you a little closer to that. So you see you've got RPM and then engine temperatures, engine pressures, and then gas. So somebody has not paid close enough attention, and John just took it away from me. So we'll go back over here, and has burned one tank down lower than the other. So there's a tank in the right wing, a tank in the left wing. So we've got even information as accurate as that. There's more engine information available here. We would call this the MFD, or the multifunction display. We've got temperatures for each cylinder there. We've got electrical information, alternator voltage, battery amperage there. And the bottom, there's going to be a fuel calculator for the amount of gas that we have left on the airplane. Back to the PFD that I was trying to talk about earlier, you can see that the whole thing is essentially an artificial horizon. The entire screen gives you an idea of your orientation, okay? So nose up, nose down, whether or not you're in a turn, whether or not you're coordinated, right? We also here have an airspeed tape, or excuse me, an altitude tape that tells us what altitude we're at. And then here, you can't really see much going on. That's our airspeed tape, tells us what speed we're going. Down at the bottom, this is going to be our navigational information, sort of gives us our heading and any navigational information, whether or not we're using GPS or the VORs that John showed you the antennas for earlier. On the bottom left corner, that's going to be sort of a smaller version of a moving map that you can get a bigger version on the MFD that I talked about earlier. But that smaller version kind of helps us with, we usually keep it in the traffic page, kind of helps us stay clear of other airplanes. If we go over here, we can set up a big map on the MFD. On the far left of the cockpit, you'll notice we've got some tinier versions of all of those things. This is going to be the only backup instrumentation for this airplane. Everything in this airplane is electronic. There's not even really a compass in it anymore. So this is pretty much cutting edge stuff. This is sort of what we're seeing the industry, the general aviation, go to at this point. So we're pretty lucky to be able to be flying stuff that's really sort of just the very newest technology that you'll see. So even our, like I said, even our reversionary or our backup instruments are these, are going to be this Aspen over here, PFD, and a slightly smaller, what we would call kind of a digital HSI. And I think I got a question here.
Yeah,
is there a fact? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, there's a question that came in that I think Professor Magoc might want to answer. So
Okay.
Is there a practical test or other assessment to move up the curriculum, or just a valid private pilot's license? So going into skipping that first private pilot lesson mod. Oh, Professor Magoc, you are muted.
Sorry, I keep doing it. So I guess if your earlier question was, if I have a private, what does it do for me? Well, I mean, throughout the program, you're basically going to progress through the cycle of courses that we have. So if you come in with the private, you'll do the flight 2 transition, and that then leads on into flight 3, followed by 4, right? So now you're talking about finishing up with the instrument and commercial, and then 5 would be your multi-engine rating, and then flight 6 is the CFI. So basically you're just going to build up your certificates and ratings. It's all going to start with that private, and it goes from there.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, and maybe coming in with a private would speed that process along. So you might be a semester or two.
Yeah, you could be ahead. Yeah, and then what would be an advantage of that is that depending on your schedule in the senior year, we might be able to use you as a flight instructor, put you in a course called Practicum. And in this course, you're actually going to serve as a flight instructor under the supervision of our assistant, maybe our more seasoned flight instructors, more experienced ones. But you'll have students, and you're a flight instructor, and you're teaching them what to do. All right, so you're getting practical experience while still in college. That's going to bode well for you when you graduate, because most times people that are going through this route, looking for an airline job, they're going to want to build their time up as a flight instructor. That's not the only way, but many people do it that way. So you build up your time, and you've already got some under your belt, so you look real good to a future employer.
Yes, definitely that work experience. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to elaborate on that. So once you complete our training for the transition, there is an oral and a flight that will be done by a state check examiner here. It's very similar to your private pilot tech reg. So there will be a test, an oral and a flight before you can move on to the next module.
Yeah, to make sure you can succeed within the parks curriculum. I want to go back to Mary really quick. And I'm seeing it on Donnie's screen as well. So I'm going to leave this in gallery view, but we can see some of those steam gauges. Mary, would you kind of compare some of those to what Donnie was showing us in the glass cockpit?
Yeah, so we see our typical 6-pack here: airspeed indicator, attitude indicator, altimeter, turn coordinator, heading indicator, and our vertical speed indicator, as well as some of our other, power, some of our actually engine indications, letting us know if everything's normal, our GPS. So this is, the steam gauge is what we have in really 2 of our aircraft. So the Diamond DA-20 and the Seminole, so the private pilot through really instrument trainer, and then also your multi-engine commercial trainer.
Wonderful. Yeah. So when you're a licensed pilot and you get in different aircraft, you're going to see combinations of each of those in your career. All right. Well, everybody, we are just about out of time. I want to thank everyone for attending today and submitting your questions. A huge thank you to Professor Magoc, Johnny, John, Mary, and Brady for sharing your time with us at the hangar. We hope that everyone viewing enjoyed the virtual visit to SLU's Aviation Science Department. If you would like to learn more about the aviation programs at SLU, please visit slu.edu/parks. As always, please reach out to us at our email address, parksevents@slu.edu, if you would like to connect further with our programs. For any teachers that might be logged on today, we would be happy to set up a virtual lab visit or a guest speaker for your classroom during this semester. So please just send us an email to get that scheduled. And we hope that everyone plans to join us next week on Thursday, February 11th at 1 p.m. for a virtual visit to SLU's Center for Additive Manufacturing, and we'll learn about all things 3D printing. So this concludes our webinar today. Thank you so much again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.